Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison. In the spirit of the trees, in the spirit of a living nature of which we are a part, with deep gratitude for all the generations before us who have brought us to the present moment, I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising as we embark on our second day of a 5-day program on how we can regain control of our health, how through simple practices available to anybody, anywhere, and not just currently, but available over the thousands of years of human presence on this earth as human beings have learned painstakingly how to keep their health vital, how to cure themselves from diseases. And so this program that we're convening this week touches on these things that all of us can do. And today we're going to delve into the whole realm of evolutionary somatics with two practitioners who have really uncovered the wellspring of vitality through physical movement and breathing. To convene our program today, I want to invite back in Deanna Rice, who is the overall convener of the whole program. Deanna is a polarity practitioner for many, many years, a hypnotherapist, someone who's developed her own style of breath work, has been involved in alternative healing and holistic healing for many, many years. I've gotten to know Deanna through Humanity Rising. It turns out she's a neighbor here in Marin County in California. So Deanna, thank you so much for everything that you've done to support Humanity Rising and to convene this program at a moment in history where maintaining our health, our physical, our mental, our emotional health is a priority for all of us. So thank you, and I turn the program over to you.
Thank you, Jim, so much. I'm honored to be here and share these amazing practitioners that are going to join us with Evolutionary Somatics. You see them on the screen now because we had a little issue with audio and stuff, so they're here present. And I just want to open up again the idea of this summit being a toolbox that I want to build for everybody watching. Yesterday was a wonderful intro to coherent breathing. And today we're going to delve into the body. And I want to start it out with another sound healing meditation. So I invite you to relax. And you can close your eyes or lower them. And just listen to the sound of the perfect fifth. This is the sound of the universe moving in. Allow it to move into the brain. And move down the spinal cord into the pelvic basin, allowing it to ground you down the legs like a grounding cord into the middle of the planet. And moving it back up into the feet, up through the legs, into the heart region. And with love and support, moving the energy out into the world. Where it's needed, into Ukraine and all the people that are suffering on the ground. Love and support. Wherever there is aggression, allowing this energy to soften us as humans with our intention for peace. And coming back, everybody, welcome back. I want to introduce to you two people that I am so excited to see their presentation, probably of all this week, because I don't really know, it's a surprise exactly how they've manifested it. It's Evolutionary Somatics as a practitioner and an ex-dancer. Somatics is so important. It's soma, the body. We move, we feel, we harness so much in our bodies. Emotion, everything is so interesting, the way that we navigate through our lives. And this particular model, I am so interested in the maps that they use of the proprioceptors, how we move in space, and how interoperception, the polyvagal theory, how we feel and how we feel safe in our bodies, how we extend it out into the world. These two practitioners, Elizabeth Andis Bell and George Bell, are a married couple, and I met them in New York City. I'm a New Yorker now in California. And I went to a couple of their classes. I don't even know if you remember me, Bruce. I know that Elizabeth and I have spoken about it, but they had several yoga studios in the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And they are an amazing perspective. It's Barbara Brennan. They taught with her work for 10 years and evolved into their own amazing methodology. So I invite you both to come on and share. They are in their studio in upstate New York in Phoenicia, which I'm very familiar with, and I love that area. It's such a beautiful part of upstate New York. And I'm just turn it over to both of you.
Thank you. Deanna, everyone, we are delighted to be with you today. It's really a pleasure to share this work. Did you want to just say hello before I dive right in, Bruce?
No, I did.
Okay. So, fascial tuning. You're probably saying, what in the heck is that? It sounds kind of technical. So let me back up a little bit. I want to introduce you to a new world that has been living in your body from the very beginning. And she's called your biointelligent body. So this biointelligence has been the formative aspect for all organic life on Earth forever. And we're going to explore that a little bit today. What I want to say about this interesting time that we live in is that in this time of meta-crises in the world, this biointelligent body of yours is coming online. She's waking up, she's healing, and she's evolving. And it's leading us to a new structure of consciousness, a different way of being in reality. So the biointelligent body, so we know anatomy as, the systems of the body, the muscles and bones, and the fascia is so much more than just the pieces of gristle that we cut away in anatomy class for, anatomists didn't really look at it. They thought that was the wrapping. But things have really changed in the last 25, 30 years, I would say. And now we've come to know our fascia is a quantum part of us. It is a living, liquid, crystalline web. And it has miraculous capacities. For instance, it's not solid, liquid, or gel, but it's or gas, solid, liquid, or gas, but it's actually the fourth state of matter. The fourth state of matter, meaning it can shape shift from being a liquid to a gel. And when this phase change from gel to liquid happens in our bodies, we need to understand that the architecture of this web of living liquid crystal changes itself at every scale to be in relationship to the forces that are constantly impacting us. So let me back up a little bit and say life is cellular, right? A cell is a sphere. So life is round. We are round. And we can sometimes be juicy, and we can sometimes be sticky and dried out, more gelatinous. And those phase changes in us happen as our response to the forces that are constantly impacting us. Forces like gravity, electromagnetism, strong force, weak force, fifth force. I saw somebody mention that. So these forces are constantly impacting us. And we don't necessarily know when they're coming or how much force they're coming with. But we do have this amazing ability to respond and adapt, especially when we're fluid. Now, when we get sticky, that's where things can begin to, develop some trouble for us. But these forces are really not as chaotic as you think they may be, because there is a template of divine geometry that underlies all these forces. And the template is an icosahedron. Now we have some tools that we work with, right?
We have one right here.
Yeah, Bruce is holding up. So that's what an icosahedron looks like. All right. Well, the toys, we're not going to get into the toys so much right now, but we play with these a lot as we move. But the icosahedron is that divine geometry that helps to organize those spheres of you so we feel safe. So we vibrate at a coherent frequency, so that we can show up and feel both ourselves on the inside as coherent, but also be in contact with the environment and be responsive to the changes in the environment in a way that is innovative and creative, so that we have a positive impact. So there's an element now in the roundness of us about being symbiotic. And what we need to understand is that one of the cornerstones of the symbiosis is that icosahedral divine geometric template doesn't just exist outside of you. It exists inside the round cellular part of us at every scale. So in other words, the fabric of the collagen fibers, as well as the extracellular matrix and intracellular matrix, are all taking on those same icosahedral divine geometric patterns as they move, so as they transition in phase, in response, in symbiosis. So that's the biointelligence of us. And we are becoming conscious of this now. And the more we bring this into our conscious awareness and start to develop this toolkit that Deanna was talking about, the more we can start to be co-creative in how we are experiencing our internal reality and our external reality. And this can help us in so many different ways. Like, it can help us, first of all, just move with more ease and grace. And the more you do this kind of work, the greater longevity you are building, because a lot of aging is about drying out. And this keeps us juicy. Our cellular health improves. So as those forces massage us, our cells are being massaged outside and inside, and we become better cellular metabolizers. Our well-being improves. And here's an interesting thing. We go beyond being resilient. We become anti-fragile. By this, I'm referring to, you might know, I'm just going to, Hassim Nicholas Taleb. I didn't want to mess up his name. He had a book out that came out during the pandemic. I read it, called Anti-Fragility. And he talks about black swan events like COVID. Things come seemingly out of the blue and cause, it's a big bang, causes a lot of change. Well, we can take the hit and build back ourselves and come right back to the same conditions of reality with a newfound resilience. But the reality that caused the conditions haven't changed. So then another black swan event can come along and boom, it hits us again. And this time, that build back better resilience that we had crashes. How many times can we keep doing that? So what Talib talks about in his book, Anti-Fragility, is, well, what about if we can come back reoriented into a different paradigm as active creators, co-creators of a new way of being. And so I would like to put this work in that context. Because the body isn't just this vehicle that we, do our lives in. It's where our reality takes place. It's where we make meaning. So it holds things. The body, in the jelliness of our body, we're holding all the resonant waves of our experience. But we're also holding all those resonant waves of the culture, the familial experience. We're even sensitive to waves of experience impacting us through the morphic fields. And our body, our liquid, living, crystalline, biointelligent fascial matrix is your most sensitive organ. It has more sensory receptors than any other part of your body. Yes, a lot of them are going out, sensing your external environment. But even more, like 10 times more of them are coming in, giving you information that then is in here. And the body's remembering that.
It's adapting and it's moving. I think the key phrase underneath this is evolving.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mhm.
We are changing from anti-fragility, moving into new paradigms. We are evolving physically. Our physiology is evolving into a new paradigm.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can tap into other sources of energy, and we could bring those down into the cells, which will change the metabolism of the cells, change the DNA, change the genetic dispositions.
Right. Because you're holding memories in your body, but there's, and this is also true with the fascia, like there are no real layers in fascia. There's no real dividing line between the fascia of your foot and the fascia of your lower back and the fascia of your neck. You're a continuity. It's one continuous sheath. And there's no real dividing line between that and how you think or your emotional patterns We tend to hold patterns of a lot of different things in this body-mind quantum field of ours. So in that way, we shape our reality all the time. And sometimes what happens is we get stuck in the shapes that we make. Those shapes can have imprints in the fabric of us. But there's good news here. And the good news is that we can reshape that matrix and we can develop more sensory capacities so that we can now start to shift this body through which we experience our lives. And we can see with greater clarity. Colors can seem brighter. Sounds are enriched. Sensations in the body can come to life. You know, you suddenly begin to hear and see and feel in this richer level that is about pleasure. This is all about pleasure. Pleasure at the most basic level of, that tastes good. Oh my gosh, that smells good. Oh, look at this beautiful view. We can begin to experience a new richness in the world. And when that happens, over time, you might not notice it at first, but then your concepts about yourself begin to change, and your concepts about the collective begin to change, and even your concepts of time and space begin to change.
And literally, I believe the inner harmony of your cells change.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You,
This is a feeling
you're
of
vibrating at a
self-experience.
different, yeah. And what I love that you said that, because that also reminds me of something else I want to say. We are all born with our own signature inner harmony. You know, you grew yourself in the womb, but if you could have seen yourself in that experience, you could see the being growing, and there's a sense of inner coherence as the new parts of us begin to emerge. So that's never lost. When that first force hits you, that could disrupt that inner harmony a little bit, but it doesn't go away. And you know this. You know what this feels like in your cells. So let me now kind of get back to what I was saying before about how your senses start to open up in this pleasurable way, and even your sense of time and space begin to shift. So when that happens, that is actually an evolutionary marker, and we need to pay attention to it because it's a hopeful sign. So we want to introduce you to a way, that a skill that we have that helps us start to develop this emergent capacity called haptic presencing. Big term, what do I mean? Well, haptic. Okay, so your phone has a haptic thing on it. If you look at your phone and you put it in your settings, you can turn off the ringer and put it on the haptic setting and stick it in your pocket and it'll vibrate. So that's how kind of the modern world is experiencing haptic today. We're going to take that a little bit deeper. Haptic means
a little bit deeper.
All
the way.
We're going to go a lot deeper with that. Haptic is on the most basic level a sense of touch. Now it's used interchangeably with kinesthesia. Kinesthesia is a sense of your body as it moves through space. So that involves your relationship with gravity, your relationship with the environment. We're not yet talking really about proprioception, but remember, you don't need to worry about layers because it's one continuity of us. So, touch is your most vital skill, right? That touch is how we know things. Touch it has a relational component to it because I've got to move out of me and touch something else, right? So there's a relationship in the space that I move through, and there's a relationship in the edge with which I'm making contact, and then there's a relationship beyond that edge into Bruce. So space in touch actually is very alive. It's very full.
It's very subtle.
It's very, very
And
subtle.
it takes movement.
Yeah. So in the old way of thinking about, a three-dimensional ego, mental, rational concept, space between Bruce and me is empty. I'm an object, he's an object, or I'm the subject, he's the object, but in this other way, space is shifting and full and dynamic, and I am moving with the forces, adapting myself in this relational aspect of touch. And I don't even need to touch him physically to have that experience. I can just touch him energetically.
No, yes,
I can think about,
we could
imagine.
We could heal across the world. We could touch people across the world. We could, in long distance healing, you get a sense, if you ever done any, just think of somebody there and touch them, you have that feeling inside of you of what it feels like over there.
right,
And therefore you could change and be in relationship with it.
right. So that may, we're all, many of you probably do or have experienced long distance healing. And this is really the experience of this energetic touch, being in relationship to these forces in space. And I just saw a comment come up about intention. Yes, intention. Intention is how we attune to this. So anyway, this kind of haptic presencing is an experience that enables us to develop this ability to feel inside ourselves, to sense our own sense of coherent flow or not inside ourselves, while I am in some relationship energetically and perhaps physically through my sense of touch. Right, so I'm experiencing the outside while I'm experiencing the inside, and I'm conscious of that. I don't go touch and lose myself. That's how I get in the weeds with myself. Speaking from experience here. So one of the ways that highly sensitive people experience a heightened level of touch is through kinesthesia, which is combining two or more senses. Like if I was to touch and hear a sound, or if I was to touch Bruce, and when I touch him, I experience the color green.
I look out at the mountains and there are the trees,
Mm-hmm.
and they're green here today.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel a sense of space around me and in me of that tree. right? So it's like not only see it, it's the space, it becomes a total experience. I guess it's the easiest way.
Yes.
Our perceptions blend, and we have this total experience of something that we know inside of ourselves,
Right.
instead of dividing it up into different segments.
Right. And so that's one way that, as space starts to move and fill and become enriched and shift, that's an evolutionary marker. Time will also shift in a very similar way, in that you stop being bound up in these distinct units of time. Oh, it's 12 o'clock, I have to go to lunch, or I have a 2 o'clock meeting. Where you begin to feel like, oh, and then I have a 5 o'clock call that I have to really be prepared for. So I have to start at 3:15, which means I have to get off my call. You start chopping yourself up like that, and you begin to feel like you're running out of time. And you're always trying to catch up.
But in the meantime, for that meeting and what happens after that, you're actually feeling that now.
Yes.
All the time.
I feel that makes me feel anxiety even just saying.
Oh no, I was putting
like that little
I was expanding the reference.
hamster on the wheel.
Well, I was expanding the reference as time. Time shifts, space shifts. So that whole thing, I could also feel the whole time sequence now. I could feel where it came from.
Yes.
I could see myself going there. I could be in it, and I can go beyond that and still have, that's a sense in me also.
Yes, you
or
get
I could
this.
divide it up and go into panic because it's, the subway's late and I'm, whatever, late for the meeting, and it's an important meeting. I get all panicked, but the whole sense of it is available, as is the whole space of it is available.
Exactly. So you can stretch it and bend it and experience it differently.
It's a feeling.
And it's a feeling. It's a feeling. So, so what we're going to do is add sound to movement and help you to start to experience more of this synesthesia leading into this kind of touch, haptic opening of filling yourself with your own sense of internal volume while being very present in your environment. So there's one more really beautiful piece to this that has to do with the evolutionary aspect of it. And, I'm going to refer to one of my favorite books. He's been a great teacher for me. I'm sure many of you are familiar with John Gebser's work, The Ever-Present Origin, which is a whole view of evolution. But in this book, he talks about a marker for when we start to transition into integral consciousness, these higher levels, that we begin to connect with this sense of unity, the ever-present origin of all life, the grand unity that is present, that when I start to even reconnect with it as I speak to you about it, I get chills all over my skin. It's always here for us to touch back into. And when you're in that space of navigating my inner coherence and touching on the outside world, knowing that that is one continuity, like our fascial sheath, we are all one unity held in this template of divine geometry. Then we can begin to move into places of enlightened action, effortless ease. And in the inevitable times when we lose it, we can begin to bring ourselves back, uproot ourselves from that old way and reroute ourselves into this coherent space.
I mean, You know, I grew up as a young hippie, and there's always a sense of oneness. We are all one. We're all one. But what does that mean? And to start coming to this place now of haptic resonance and presence is that it's actually it's one body. It's one living body.
Yes.
The cell in me is the same relationship and cell came from the cell in you. And they're all pulsing and beating with a heartbeat. And therefore, I could sense in myself, haptically, I could sense this body. And through this body, I could sense the other body. In fact, I do, even if I don't know it. But when I let myself open to it and all of a sudden being influenced by all these forces, there is this one pulsing universe that I am of, as much as anyone else is. We are all this. It really has a physiological, cellular reality to it.
Yes.
To say that we are one.
Yes.
It's not an abstraction.
So, are you ready to wake up your biointelligent body? Let's move. So, you know, if you want to do this sitting, that's fine with us. If you want to lie down or stand up, that's fine as well. You want to be comfortable. We're going to move around for a while, but one of the things you could do is we're going to press. You can use if you're standing, you can press against a wall. You can press against your desk. I'm going to press against the wall rack that I have over here. If you're sitting, you could press against your thighs. You know, you could use whatever you have, because what you're going to start doing with your body is a series of pushing and pulling and rotating. And the best thing to do is to become what we call a closed kinematic chain, which means your arms aren't flying out like that, or your legs, but your hands are touching your desk or touching the wall or pressing your thighs. And that's going to help the energy to move through you. So if you're lying on the floor, if you want to roll around on the floor and push against the floor, that's all fine too. So let's just begin. I'm going to stand up. Just want to move a couple things to the side a little bit here. And Bruce, you might
have to adjust this a little
need
bit.
to readjust this camera a little bit. We had a little technical thing, so we're on our phones today. So there's this tiny screen up in the corner. Okay. All right. So I want to start us off with pandiculation. Pandiculation. Now, every time you watch your cat wake up and stretch, that cat is pandiculating, right? But pandiculation is actually this really wonderful thing. So it starts with an impulse. And the impulse, you know that impulse when you've been sitting for a long time, you have this impulse to open yourself up and to expand. And here you can reach your arms. You don't have to press them or anything. We're not doing that part yet. You're just starting to open your body. There's a spontaneous urge that comes out from inside of you to go, ah. You might want to yawn, inhale, move your body in these omnidirectional ways. Omnidirectional. So it doesn't mean I'm just going, and stretching the top part or stretching one leg out. And also, I'm not stretching, because stretch is a two-dimensional idea. And if you take a piece of meat and you hang it on a hook to age it, it will stretch, because it's got this thing called plasticity. And so you're going to stretch it and stretch it and stretch it. And guess what? It's going to get so long, it's not going to stretch back. So all you hypermobiles, all you tight people who think you have to stretch, stop stretching. Start pandiculating. Why? Because it maintains your structural integrity. It changes you from being gel, from being a sticky, gluey jelly, into being a fluid, wavy, non-linear, totally expansive person who is also a really good shock absorber. Because if you're going to go rolling around and jumping around, you want to have your bounce too. So this primes the fabric of your biointelligent fascial body. Now, pandiculations, do some more with me. Just have fun. Play around. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to make it slow. And you're going to breathe. However your body is moving you, however your breath is breathing you, you want to know that these pandiculations now, you're going to make them super nourishing, super self-soothing. Oh. Nobody's watching. Just really let yourself move. Let yourself go for it. Have fun. Oh. Make sounds. Move your face. Move your fingers. Indulge yourself. So that is pandiculation. Oh. Oh. And it's just a really great way to come into your body, right? To feel present.
I was going to say, it's a great way to wake up.
It's a,
And it is the way many people wake up. And every morning, puppy dog's on the foot of our bed, and I go touch him, and he goes, ooh, and he pandiculates.
yes,
It's
so
like
simple,
literally waking up.
so basic. So please, do pandiculations often, because our body's going to shape itself into sitting at your desk really fast. And this is a great way to lubricate, to hydrate. Movement is what hydrates us. So 8 glasses of water, yes, drink them, it's good, but it's not going to hydrate you. Movement is going to hydrate you.
It's also a very natural thing that just happens in all bodies. And it's something that you just can't put a linear aspect on it and control it.
Right.
Right. It has its own life to it. It spirals, it rotates, it pulses, it phrases itself. That's the way it is. And it moves. The more it moves through. It takes the whole body to do the movements. So it's delicious.
So now we're set. We're ready to move, right? We woke up, we pandiculated, we are ready to go now. I'm a nourished, shock absorbing, structurally integral being. Okay, so now we want to start moving with both the sense of stability and mobility. So now I'm taking my feet a little bit wider. And wherever you are, you're doing that too. And yes, you can do it if you have a big gymneo ball. It's great on a big gymneo ball. But now I'm just starting to sway a little bit from right to left. And I'm bringing my awareness to my feet. And I'm just going from pronation to supination on the feet. So what's that mean? Okay, I'm going to my right now. I'm going to the outer border of my right foot. So my right foot's supinating. I'm going still on the right side. I'm on the inner border of my left foot. My left foot's pronating. So what does that mean? Because if my left foot, the baby toe side started to peel away, or my left heel started to slide in, then I don't have a good pronated left foot that roots me to provide stability as I go way out here. So if I don't have that anchor here, I could lose my stability and go too far to the right. So there's this reciprocal action that is taking place in my body. I want you to imagine a figure eight lying on the floor, and your feet are just kind of tracing that figure eight. You're aware of the baby toe of the foot. You're aware of the big toe of the foot. Now go back a little bit to the ball of the foot where the baby toe is and the big toe is, and press down. And find the outer heel of each foot and the inner heel of each foot. So there are those points, 4 points on each foot. And so as you're doing this figure eight motion in your feet, you're very easily going pronating, supinating. So the feet are going like this. There's a reciprocal motion, adapting, but able to stay within your structural integrity. And then you can take yourself to your pelvis and just with your hips, your hands on your hips, begin to draw a little figure eight, a horizontal figure eight.
Can we bring in geometry to this?
Sure. Well, I just want to switch sides first. So, because we didn't do the other side on the feet. So let's just stay with the hips because the feet will do the same thing. Now I'm going my figure eight to the left. So I'm going, now I'm to the right. I'm going right front corner, around to the right back corner. And I'm going from the right back corner to the left front corner, around to the left back corner. Then I'm going through the middle to the right front corner. So there is the figure eight in the pelvis. And you want to know that as that's happening in your body, you are going from a state of mobility to a state of stability. Now, this is where things can start to get a little complex because guess what? Let's shift sides. Try it on your own. Go the other way. There's so much happening here. There's so much that a bone needs to spin, the pelvis needs to spin on top of the bone, the feet are adjusting, the calves are adjusting, everything is spinning and adjusting here. So as you start moving, you might find those places where you're gluey, where you kink a little bit. And so you're just moving within a range that allows you not to go to a point of pain, but to a point where you can start to say, well, maybe if I make it smaller, I come into more stability. And then from that place of stability, you begin to find your mobility. I'm going to bring my hands now to my ribs, and I want you to just start moving through the feet and the pelvis, taking your hands to your ribs and just start noticing, feel into the ribs, what's happening, how are the ribs moving? You're just exploring this. So Bruce, you wanted to bring in the geometry and yeah.
So
Tell me about your experience bringing in the geometry.
So here is my geometry has an elasticity to it. It shapes, it moves, it weaves, it moves in arcs and circles. There's no straight lines here in my movement. And just the slightest, if we really minimize it, the slightest shift of weight, if I just press out here, it's going to move my whole body over here. And this is where you're talking about the feet. So now we're really looking at the feet because that's where the ground force reaction of the earth comes up. That gives the energy and the stability that moves up through the body. So this is so natural then to move the feet. You don't have to think about left, right, inside, outside of the foot. It just happens, right? If you shift your weight and you're haptically aware of where you're touching, right? It's kind of a natural thing that, to bring your attention to it. Oh yeah, that was the outside of the foot rounded itself around. And all of a sudden, look, you could see the reflection of that all the way up here, because that's moving my hip a little bit. And watch, there's my hip now. You can see it's like a great big magnifying glass.
Yeah.
Right. Also, oh my gosh, instead of me, what's going on here? You
You
actually
can really see it with the
that.
ICO.
And not only that, now, see, I'm touching out here. So my geometry of support haptically in space has this support to it. Like if I'm in close here, I do have a little ICO ball. It's like this, but this is a little less stable than suddenly I've got myself in a stability of space here with these lines of force in my field that help shape me. Not only do they help shape me, they give me the right arc, right? So I don't go out here and twist like this, and yank myself and kind of.
Which is a lack of structural integrity. So he goes.
My structural integrity. Yeah. Now I have this shape. And one of the things, it just is beautiful. It's the spiral of life. It's the golden mean ratio. It gives you a spiral that's not just a perfect centered spiral. It's an opening spiral. So we open into life. It's an emergent property again, but that's happening in our movement. That happens in our shift of weight and our turn.
So that's beautiful. So now what I want to do is we're going to do this push, pull, rotate part. So I'm going over, Bruce, you're going to need to move the camera a little bit so I can be seen against this wall.
One more thing before you do your push, pull, rotate. Can you see this? This ball, I'm pushing it down. And as I push it down, it wants to push back. I'm pulling it in, push back. And then it also is doing this.
It's spiraling.
Right. So we're in the ball, we're a circle, right? We're spherical, and the sphere is doing this, right? So it's in the geometry again, how the geometry folds into itself and unfolds itself. That's all.
Okay.
Important.
Yeah. So here we go. Spiral movement, that part that folds into itself. What we want to also know is that we're feeling that spiraling inside of us too. And sometimes what we're really feeling is it's chirality, which is two opposing spirals. So there's a right-hand spiral and a left-hand spiral. And that is really what gets that movement sensation through the whole body. So as you lean against your desk or press your hands against the wall, or the floor, I'm going to be over here pressing against this bar. We're going to go back and explore those spirals a little bit more. So you're going to let yourself walk away from wherever your hands are enough so that you have a nice long spine. And just take a moment here and arrive here to find some comfort for yourself. So you might want to just move your body a little bit. Maybe you want to shake, make a sound, wiggle a little bit, get yourself here. And then just start to think that you could push your hands away from you and lengthen through your arm. Reach your head out so your head's reaching forward toward your fingers and your tailbone is reaching back behind you, and see if you can find a nice long spine. And then just wag that tailbone to the right. You're going to the outside of the right foot. Wag the tailbone to the left. You're going to the outside of the left foot. So you're just starting to go side to side again. Now, as you go side to side, I'm going to the left side, outside of my left foot. I'm wagging my tailbone to the left. I'm pushing my left hand away, and I'm pulling my right hand in. So it's not just the hand, actually, it's the whole arm. And it's not just the arm, because you want to keep pulling all the way through as you shift to the right, tailbone to the right, pull with the left, push with the right. Keep shifting and playing side to side. And breathe. And let your knees bend and stretch naturally. And so now, take it to a little figure 8 in the feet, like we were doing before. So I'm going to the ball of the foot at the baby toe and crossing through center to the outside heel of the left foot, crossing, rotating around to the baby toe of the left, crossing through center to the outside heel of the right. Right baby toe crosses through center to the outer heel of the left. You see, you just start going a little figure 8 motion and add your push and pull. And notice how your tailbone is wagging to the side that you're going to. And then let's bring it the other way. Can you take it to the left and around, and to the right and around, and keep pushing and pulling? Your pelvis is involved. Your feet are involved. In between your pelvis and feet, there is a world of chirality. The bones are spinning. The collagen fibers are spinning. That whole fascial matrix is lighting up. Now just come back for a second and relax your arms and stand up. Whew. And let's go back again and come all the way back and lengthen out again. And let's come to the rib cage. And let's start, you have 12 ribs, right? So we have these floating ribs at the bottom. And then we can start to, if you take your hands to your ribs, each is a ring, right? So feel those rings. And I want you to know that those rib rings, you can go up underneath your armpits and feel around and feel, you can feel your ribs. You can go up to your collarbones and you can feel the rib cage is all the way up to your first rib, right? You can take your fingers to your collarbone and you can press them up and they're rolling up toward your nose. And you take your collarbones and press them down and they're rolling down toward your feet. Right, so that's moving the whole sternum, the top of the sternum called the manubrium. It's moving your shoulder blades. It's moving your thoracic spine, right? So there's a lot of freeing up we can do in the rib cage. So take your hands to the desk or the bar or the wall again, and then just begin to start with your lower ribs. And you're going to go lower rib. You're going to go to the left side down and up and around, and right side down and up and around. So we're making little figure 8s. Bending my left knee as I go left and down, and then bending my right knee as I go right and down, and focus on just those lower ribs. And we're going to go up rib by rib. Ooh. And know that as I go to the left, I'm pushing with my left hand, pulling with my right. Go to the right, it's the opposite. So the hands are doing their natural pushing and pulling, and you with your intention are focusing on moving through each rib, bending the knee, adding the breath. And what happens if you want to add a sound here? So I'm going to add a sound from Continuum, a classic sound called the O breath. Just join in. I'll start a couple of them. But do it so that it vibrates your tissues. Keep up your sounding. I'm going to just start talking over that. So feel free at any time to try to go the other way in your figure 8. What is that like? It's going to be changing sides is a whole other thing. You might feel really awkward at first, but it's amazing how fast you adapt. So I'm working my way still up. I'm getting to my way upper ribs. Let's go way up. Let's see if we can get to the second rib and the first rib, all the way up. And then let yourself come back down again and just lean from side to side. How is that experience of adding the sound? What kinds of sensation does that wake up in your body? Then let yourself rest and just sway from side to side. Walk your feet in a little bit and let yourself slowly roll up to stand. So everything that we are doing here is involving waking up sensation in your body. Let yourself get really quiet and sense into what you're feeling, this inner world of sensation. You may experience streaming, tingling, flowing. There are really no words for many of the sensations. So just feel, don't look for a word. What is the feeling that exists before there's a word for it? Before there's a thought? These are your first order sensations. These are the environment of your biointelligent living liquid crystal body, that fascial matrix. This is the language that she speaks. So now just come to a quiet space, sitting, standing, lying down, shifting the weight in that little figure 8 pattern. If you're sitting, it's on your pelvis. If you're standing, it's in your feet. If you're lying down and your knees are bent, it's in your feet and your pelvis. Find the movement. This gentle sense of movement that doesn't knock us off center, because there's this inherent stability in it, like a Mobius strip, it's contained. And we're going to start to experience a little bit more of the perception side of this amazing sensory organ of our fascia. And we're going to use it to help us navigate toward pleasure. So find that movement in your body. And together, let's make some soft O sounds that feel like that it vibrates inside this fluid juiciness of our inner being. We're going to do 3, and then we're going to go into open attention, which means we're just going to be present. So while you're moving, You can add some pandiculation. Feel free to explore. I'm going into open attention. Here and now, I'm feeling. Allow the movement, that undulating wave motion, to guide you into the experience of pleasure. It's the experience of pleasure as an inner coherent state of being. And there's a sense of pleasure as we begin to move out into the space around us. It's almost like there's no separation. It's one continuity. And then when it feels right to you, if your eyes are closed, you can begin to slowly open them and take in the space that you are in. And the thickness of the space, the quality of the space. Little details that you never notice. The space in between the table legs. The negative space between the wall and the doorway. Just see with fresh eyes and begin to open your hearing. So that you take in all the sounds and begin to hold that in your conscious awareness while you are in this space inside. And if you begin to lose the space inside, come back here. Maybe you make a sound. Maybe you push and pull and find yourself moving pleasurably from stability to mobility, from mobility to stability. So we're going to take you one step further in this and go into this skill called Haptic Presencing, which you're kind of already doing, I'm sure. So we're going to come into, like, can we expand those senses with a wider lens, but still feel the volume of our internal coherence, our presence? So Bruce is going to help us with a little mapping technique of the first chakra, of our root system. the pelvic floor, the space between your pubic bone and your coccyx, right? So find for yourself, know your pelvic floor. Think of it as almost like a disc. Or a drum. And we're going to sit down on a ball. I invite you to sit down or sit up if you're on the floor.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, that was invigorating. Fluid with shapes. Building up pressures in the body, electricity that moves. Watch a stream flow. Feel that inside yourself, how waves build up and cascade and touch a rock and shift its space. Move your awareness now to your pelvic floor. To your here and now sensations of sitting and contact with the chair. You could do this standing, so you'd be thinking a little bit more about your feet at this point. As you bring your awareness, whether you're standing or sitting, to your pelvic floor, as you begin to watch your breath and just the organicness of an expansion of breath that fills you up, and the letting go, exhaling, moving down through the spine to the earth, perhaps a sense of weightedness. And then a new breath begins. And as you breathe in, you might feel your pelvic floor actually pressing down against the earth, which creates part of the pressure system that allows the rest of the breath to move up. And then allow it to move back down and bring your awareness to the center of your pelvic floor. And take a little bit of a forced exhalation, just a little voluntarily forced breath. And send a line with that. We'll do this together. We're going to send a line from the base of that center circle, the base of the spine, send it to the front, as far as you're comfortable with, where you could still feel your body respond to that line moving into space. We just mapped out a line from the base of the spine to the front of our body and bring it back in, and then gather some energy. So take another breath in as you come back to that, and that's your vertical column. On the exhalation, send a line of awareness behind you and watch and navigate moving to space. It may only be a half an inch, or it might be 6 inches, maybe longer, and then bring it back to center. Take a breath in, and now we're going to go to the right. Drop the breath, let it go, exhale, and send a line to the right. As far as it's comfortable with you, maybe over toward the hip. And then bring it back to center. Take a gathering breath in. Doesn't have to be a big one, just a little pulse. As you exhale, send a line from the base of the spine area to the left. And bring it back to center. Breath in. Now we go to the back again. Back. Center. Front. And be open to all the shifts and nuances in your energy, in your body, in your weight. And back to center. And then to left. And center. And right. and center. Pause. Assimilate. Register here and now. I feel it tingling all through my body. I feel my feet widening along the floor. I feel my belly slightly ascending, pulling up. And then we've mapped the cross. Now we're going to do the diagonal. Breath in. And on the dropping of the breath, the exhalation, send the line to the front right diagonal. Touch the edge of the front rightness. And bring it back through center. And go to the back left diagonal. And center. Take a pause, gather. Back right. What's that like? What's different? To the center. Through the center to the front left. What does your body do from head to toe to assimilate this shift of direction in space? Back to center, back left. And center, and front right. And center, pause for a moment. And last one, front left. Touch the edge of front leftness and bring it back towards center, through the center into the back right. And back to center. And pause. And we're going to take a breath in. We're going to make the O breath. And expand out spiritually 360 degrees in all directions. Filling up all that space. Come back again and we'll do one more. And just take a here and now. Here and now I feel.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Wow. My whole body feels like it's in a anti-gravity chamber.
Oh, good. You're developing a new relationship with gravity. Shannon says, I'm a juicy ball. Yay, Shannon.
That was just so miraculous, the relationship of all the different perception of our bodies and the space around the body, and really delicious. I love the idea of being juicy and moving with all the fluidity of us, and really expressing so much with that capability. You know, it's like you go to another level of your expression. So thank you so much, Elizabeth and Bruce. You both are just a delight together. I love your interaction. You're a real symbiotic team.
We are living symbiosis.
For 40 some years.
40 some years. You go, guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I want to bring Jim back in. What do you think? This is quite the experiential HR program.
Yeah, I feel positively serpentine watching you, Elizabeth, and with all of this, felt I was the serpent back in the garden.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
But it's just worth bringing in what Carrie Ann Flatter just wrote, because the contrast between what you were both embodying before all of us and what she says that, I was told my entire childhood and school days to sit still, face forward. And then I worked at a desk job for almost 2 decades. All that conditioning caused me to disconnect from my body and live primarily in my head. Even though it feels good, I find myself feeling awkward and resistance to really get into this type of movement, but I will remain curious and open to this experience. I think, thank you for that, Carrie Ann, because I think you're describing the experience of most people in the culture. And I would just add, I think boys in particular, little boys are particularly kinetic. And to go through a process where you just have to sit still on a chair in front of a desk and take notes for hours, then they give you a little bit of recess and then you pull you back in. I mean, we almost have developed a contortionist culture that is the negation of our natural way of being in the world. So I just wanted to acknowledge the freshness of what you've brought to us today, in contrast against what most of us have been conditioned to believe is polite and called for in terms of how we organize and present our bodies within the social conventions of our time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. And the social conditions of our time have created just so many layers of trauma in our bodies. And everyone experiences it and adapts to it and their unique circumstances in different ways. And so, for instance, Carrie Ann, if you want to sit with something like this and do it very slowly, titrate it, use pleasure as your guide as much as feels right to you. Stop when you need to stop, because you're always keeping a primary root in that inner space. That do I feel safe? Do I feel coherent flow in me? And that's why this kind of work, we don't tell you, you have to do this movement in this way. This is your prescription. This is really about giving people the freedom to explore the richness of their own moving biointelligence selves.
Beautiful.
Yeah, beautifully put. Beautifully put. The antidote to the rigidity of our world is the fluidity of the moment, where every person needs to do it in their own way. And I think, even if you think of some of the yoga schools and so forth, they are replacing one form of rigidity with another form of rigidity. And so I really appreciated the elasticity of your approach. And a question that I have, Bruce, that I don't quite understand. I get sacred geometry, and I was a little puzzled as how holding a geometric form aids in the practice. Is it because you just imagine it in your mind as you're holding the different geometric shapes? I mean, how is that particular aspect contributing to the healing? I wasn't
love
quite clear on that.
Well, literally, when I hold this, I actually feel more stable. So I now feel these are actual real pressures. It's a real live experience. So I feel more stable here. These lines go on forever. But
Yeah.
my haptic sense is this big now around my body. So I feel the web of me now, my space alive, much more this far away from my body. If I do the bigger one, I feel it more here, which is now I could touch you with it, but this is my space here. So this actually enlivens my sense of personal space, and it's a real haptic sense. It's not an abstraction. So when it's still in my auric field. And as long as my auric field has a sense of it, so you look at the koshas in yoga or so forth, or Barbara's work talked about 7 layers. We go out this far, right? This is my kinesphere and my real world of my own personal touch from inside my body. But I could sense then outside of it a little bit farther. But there comes some point where I'm no longer feeling my personal space, and I'm in an abstract world of, let's say, I'm going to send this line out to the rest of the universe. And that's an abstraction, and that's a different haptic sense. So I've just gone over to a world of abstraction and lines versus one that I actually feel support, that I could actually press on, lean, and gain stability and a sense of self within it.
Also, I want to say, Jim, that remember we're talking about space is not empty.
Right.
So the space between me and this object, that when I'm using this object, I'm connecting with that reality that there are these forces interacting with the cells, the round bits of me, and they're always moving me. And this just magnifies it, but it also brings me into right relationship with those forces. So my biointelligence knows how to organize myself. I come into the good, the true, the beautiful. I come into a sacred geometrical relationship, right, with myself as an organism within this moving force that is life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, beautifully put. Thank you.
The other is these lines are in a 3D perspective, but they're actually in sacred geometry. They're moving, evolving, coming in on themselves, moving out. So those are forces. The lines of geometry are forces. They're not straight lines that we could, like a bar that we could pull up on or something like that. And so in our imaginal world, we can imagine this moving out into space. But in our reality world, this actually affects my muscles and my tissues in my body. So they're responding inside of me and moving around too, which is part of that whole thing, flowing in a pulse up and down from head to toe.
Yeah, because you're supported by it. I see it moving. It is such a support system, the actual object. But for me also during your work, I found like the pelvis work with those lines extended all the way up to my eyeballs.
Yes.
I felt that, as I moved on those diagonals, that, my left eye is being affected by the right back movement and so forth. It's all lines of force, right? That we're just space, right? The physical body. So it's all, you've got the model that is so fascinating because we see it with our eyes, that those lines of forces, you're adapting a physicality to it so we can actually see it. It's
like
just
a 3D mantra.
Yeah,
Mandala.
3D mantra. I like it.
Oh,
Can I tell you about a secret about this last one? The mapping?
Yeah,
I go through all the chakras.
right.
I go to the 8. So do it someday. Your experience will deepen and deepen on each level. You'll build a coherency in all of your energy field of all the different vibrations, from the lower frequencies, the 8 hertz and so forth of the earth,
Right.
all the way to the 13,000 hertz at the
Wow.
it
Woo!
it is for space travelers.
It's
And
like,
also-
yeah, I'm holding on for the ride.
I want to say, you know, we combine the physical with the energetic, because
Right.
I really feel that that's what the biointelligent fascial web is. It's the link between the physical and the energetic
Yeah.
bodies.
Beautiful.
But if you do that, you'll be so grounded.
Yeah.
You won't go out of your body. The whole experience is in your body. It's so delicious and empowering.
I want to do your class. I hope you put it all in. Everybody check them out. Have you put every information wise in the chat? So, and there's an after chat. Are you able to join?
Yes, I'd love to join the after chat. And
Okay.
Listen, as we bring this to a close, and before Deanna has a closing comment and talks about tomorrow, I want to pay you a supreme compliment, both of you, that comes from Mary Thorpe. She said, I thought regeneration was something I and we had to do out there. This week, I realized regeneration has to happen inside me.
Mm.
This is what it looks like. I have begun regenerating my body, myself. The actions I take will be in alignment with this inner coherence. Ah.
Beautiful. Thank you. So
Oh.
beautiful.
You know, and if I could make just a quick comment on this, Mary, thank you for making that observation, because I think you're touching on to something very profound. And I think as I've been seeking to fathom the impact of the pandemic, I think that it has reoriented humanity from the outside to the inside in a very profound way, because the external stresses now are of such intensity that people, I think in many cases for the first time, are wondering, do they have the fortitude to navigate through what's coming? So the challenge is not so much what we do anymore, but how we do it. Not so much choosing a particular aspect of our life in terms of a vocation, but rather developing the inner mastery, the inner coherence that enables us to do whatever it is that we're called to do at a deeper level of integrity, because we're more authentically integrated between the inner and the outer. So I think you're making a very profound point. And in fact, Ubiquity as a university is undergoing a curriculum refinement, because we're realizing that people that are coming to us, coming to Humanity Rising, are now looking for the inner regeneration far more urgently than actually, what am I going to do when I grow up?
Yeah.
And the kind of practices that Bruce and Elizabeth are bringing to us, and Deanna, you bring through your therapeutic work, have become like a national security priority for the human race right now. It's no longer something you do on Sundays, or something you do if you kind of feel like it, when you've done everything else you can think about doing in terms of the what. And so I just want to acknowledge both of you for helping to illuminate the curative power of the inner world,
Beautiful.
which is our bodies. If you think about it, our bodies are the soul, but we forgot the body, and you're leading us back to that pathway. So anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge that, and thank you, Mary, for bringing that to our attention. And Deanna, why don't you close us out and give us a word about tomorrow, and then we'll say goodbye.
Yes, beautiful put. Thank you, Jim. It is about our inner selves and that geography, how we're exploring more capabilities for us to be in our world, because it's so changing on the environmental and exterior worlds. And tomorrow we're going to delve deeper into the core. There's a bioenergetic model called the core talk, and how we access that information in a very fascinating way with pendulums and 4 specific questions to ask your body. And also tarot in motion, using the energy of an ancient model, but actually going into somatically expressing the elements. So I'm very excited to have everyone join for that and build that toolkit.
Yeah, it's all about a toolkit.
Yep.
You're absolutely right. We need a toolkit, everyone, of
We're building.
practices that can be adapted to whatever situation or need that we have. And it's quite literally a tool set. It's like a first aid kit.
Yep. Yep. And thank you, Bruce and Elizabeth. Your work, I was so excited to see it. And I feel different. My upper body feels completely different from doing that practice with you. So thank you. Much gratitude. And thank you all for joining us everywhere. Sending out much love to you in your worlds.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Elizabeth. You're all welcome to join us in the after chat group. The link is in the chat box. Deanna, thank you. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. I'm welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone. Bye for now. See you tomorrow.
Bye.